know who I am?
Anything you say, anything you say.
It's official.
What's up, guys? This week there's not a whole lot going on in the news, really. Nothing really major anyway. I saw that Notre Dame, you know, it burnt down or whatever. That kind of sucks, you know, but shit happens. They are going to rebuild it though, so that's a good thing. One of the things I found that was kind of just a minor thing, but it was kind of stupid and a little bit retarded, was whoever this Nissy guy is, supposed to be some kind of rapper no one's ever heard of, but apparently he got shot or something, got killed or whatever, and then some a news reporter or whatever, anchor or whatever, called him and several other rappers out for making some other rapper named YG or some crap like that. I have no idea. Called them out for making a rap video called F Trump, you know, and basically they were talking about how they, I don't know, they were being racist, and they were screaming through the entire song, F Trump, F Trump, and that's literally the entire song, and she was calling them out on it, and because she called them out on it, a lot of your rappers wanted to get her fired or some crap like that for being anti-American. Because you know, if there was a song made called F Obama when Obama was in presidency, they would have had a conniption fit. So it's a little, it's hypocritical, and it just shows how anti-American some of these rappers are, and it also shows how racist they can be. And besides, a lot of them, you know, they're supposed to, a lot of kids look up to these rappers or whatever, for whatever reason. They idolize them, and in their videos they're talking about, you know, showing guns and being violent and wanting to kill people for their stuff, and it's just, it's a little bit ridiculous. Some of these rappers get away with that crap, but to sit there and be called out for being racist and then turn around and say, oh no, that's not what it was, you know, blah blah blah, you know, I have every, I'm all about free speech. You say whatever you want, do whatever you want, but when you got kids that idolize you and you want to promote hate and violence, you know, through your music, that's really retarded, and you should be knocked in the fucking head for it, plain and simple. Going and screaming fuck Trump throughout an entire video, that's dumb. It just shows how ignorant some of these rappers are, and that's why a lot of your, you know, your inner city neighborhoods got gangs and are like that, because they idolize these retarded rappers, you know. But anyway, I saw that and I just thought how retarded it was. And I thought I'd mention it. It was dumb. Um, I did go see here this past weekend. I went and saw Shazam. Shazam is freaking awesome. It's a really great family type movie. Uh, there was no political nonsense thrown in it that I could see. Uh, they're going, they're going off the new 52 series story, which is okay, I guess. I don't really know much about it. The movie was great. So I have real no qualms about it that way. Why I was I know the doctor guy, Shivago or whatever his name is supposed to be a villain of Shazam. But I'd rather have much seen Black Adam in the movie. They're supposed to eventually bring him into the fold, but The Rock's supposed to play Black Adam, so I hope to see that soon, because I would have preferred seeing his main villain, which is Black Adam. Other than that, it was an excellent movie. I highly recommend you go see it. And it's the next movie that I seen here recently, which has been getting from critics mainly, it's been getting some bad reviews, and I don't know why. It's the new Hellboy, the remake. That guy from Stranger Things who plays the sheriff, David something, I can't remember his name. He's in the movie as he plays the new Hellboy, and I'm gonna tell you now the truth, the flat out truth, honest truth about this movie. There's nothing wrong with it, period. This guy did a pretty good job as Hellboy. He did not do a bad job at all. I didn't think he did. And there were several people with me when we went and saw it. They all liked it. Everyone liked it. Now, I do think that Ron Perlman was a better Hellboy. But this David guy, he didn't do too bad. I thought he did pretty good. I do prefer Ron Perlman as Hellboy, naturally, but Ron Perlman's getting pretty old, so he can't really keep doing it. As far as the movie wise, all the action scenes were awesome. It's pretty neat. I do have to say, and I do admit, I do prefer the fire girl and Abe, the aquatic guy. I prefer them to the new team. I didn't care too much for the were-tiger or cheetah or whatever he was supposed to be, and the medium girl. She could call up the dead whisperer or whatever you want to call them. She didn't really do it for me either. I prefer the old team compared to the new team, to be honest. But as far as the movie was, action-wise and everything else, story-wise, it was pretty good. I liked it. It was a really good movie. So definitely go see it and judge for yourself. Don't listen to these fucking idiots on YouTube who are trying to tell you this is a terrible movie, because it's not. It's an awesome movie. Go see it for yourself. I don't know what has got all these people on YouTube. They're so butthurt because they wanted Ron Perlman to continue playing Hellboy, and and continue with the trilogy or whatever that they were supposed to do, but it never got done. This is one of the remakes that I don't have a problem with. It was actually really good. And I usually can't stand remakes. So yeah, it's a good movie. Check out Hellboy. Go watch it. It's really good. Moving on. I'll get to your B movie or cult classic movies review. I'm going to do 3 of them here. Short reviews. It just seems people respond better to the short reviews than the long ones. The first one I'm going to go over with you is called World Without End. This is an old sci-fi cult classic from 1956. Yeah, it was back in the day. Someone mentioned it to me. I figured I'd check it out. And it kind of starts off pretty much like Planet of the Apes. The original Planet of the Apes. Instead of 3 astronauts, you got 4 astronauts. And they go through some type of time warp in space, and they end up crash landing back on Earth. However, at first they don't understand that it's Earth. You recognize one of the actors right off the bat. His name is Rod Taylor. It also has one of the iconic women of that era named Nancy Gates. She was in it too. But anyways, the astronauts, they eventually they run into some human-like mutants or whatever, you know, and they're almost like they look like Cyclops or whatever. They escape from them into this cave, and in the back of the cave is a metal door, and it opens up for them. They go in there, and they find out that humans have been surviving underground after a devastating nuclear war, and that outside are mutants. But not all of them are mutants. Some of the human race survived and didn't mutate. You see this in an example of one of these women that are living there now, are from the outside. She's living in there with them, and she's kind of like a serving girl or something. But they're technologically still advanced. However, they won't go outside. They don't want to go outside. They're scared to go outside because of the mutants. One of the guys, he's like chief of security or whatever, he tries to get the council to go against the astronauts, but it doesn't work. They all go outside. None of the women have been mutated for some reason, and there are just a few of the guys that haven't been mutated. And most of the males have turned into these mutants with like a cyclop eye or whatever. Anyways, they all go outside. The astronauts believe the only way to stop the mutation, that it's okay to be outside. They try to get the others to come outside. They won't do it until the mutants are gone. So the astronauts have an idea of how to take care of the mutants. Apparently, you know, if you win a one-on-one fight with the leader of the mutants, then you're the king of the tribe and they have to listen to you. And that's what happens. They get in a big the main astronaut has a fight with one of the main mutants and takes over the tribe. Next thing you know, everything's hunky-dory. and everyone decides to come outside, and they decide to help the mutants and rebuild a new world, and that's pretty much the end of the movie. It was an interesting storyline. It was a good movie. Of course, the graphics ain't going to be all that great. You know, it's in the clothing, the attire was a little bit cheesy for the future people, but otherwise, it was a really good movie. I thought it was a pretty decent movie for what it was. It wasn't bad. Something to watch. I recommend it if you were looking for something good to watch, especially sci-fi. The next one I'm going to talk about is, I've done, in a previous video, I talked about the original Blob. But there was in fact 2 other movies that was also made called Blob. The first one was called Beware the Blob in 1972. Now, it was also known as the sequel to the Blob. A lot of people call it Blob 2, or they called it Son of the Blob, or Return of the Blob. Now, I couldn't find some of these older movies. I can't find the like how much they gross worldwide or whatever. I'll be lucky if I can even find anything that pertains to even a domestic gross for, you know, just the USA. Most of the time I just find a budget of what they had to work with, and usually I don't find, even then, and sometimes I don't even find that. A lot of these older movies, they just, the numbers, Mojo and IMDb, you know, all these sites do box office numbers, but they don't do anything usually past 1980 half the time. Usually you won't find anything on anything older than the 80s. And you're even lucky to find some of the 80s movies in there. But anyways, I couldn't find anything as far as gross, what the movie grossed. It stars Robert Walker and Richard Stahl. Now, Robert Walker, you probably know him for, if you've ever watched Star Trek, the original Star Trek. And the only reason I recognize him anytime I see him in a show, and he's usually a TV actor. He doesn't do like, you know, he was never a standard TV character. He'd just go into the show and he'd do an episode or 2 or whatever for the show. But in Star Trek, you probably recognize him in Star Trek, because if you ever seen Star Trek, there's an episode where there's this teenage boy who he's kind of like got Q-like powers, if you know who the Q are, you know, God-like powers, and they called him Charlie, and you know, his parents come and get him later on in the show or whatever and stop him from doing what he's doing, but he abuses his power. You know, he's just like a little kid with way too much power. But that's the episode I remember him from, because he does some pretty sinister things on the show, that particular episode. So I always recognize him when I see him. But anyway, he's in this movie. He stars in it. And basically, the movie starts off with some engineer, black engineer. He brings home a sample of something they found frozen in the ice in Antarctica. He wants to study. Like I was saying, this black engineer, they found something frozen in the Arctic, and he brings it home. He's going to study it at home, but he's supposed to keep it cold His wife ends up opening the container and leaving it out. And the first victim is their cat. Well, actually, it's a little fly. You see a little fly laying on it and gobbles it up. And then it's the little kitten or little cat they have. And then it's the wife. And then it's him. Robert and his girlfriend, they show up because she actually is trying to deliver something to the black couple, and she notices this thing that's engulfed the black guy. So she goes and gets her boyfriend, which is Robert. And he goes over there and he don't see anything or find anything. They eventually get the whole town in an uproar, and they go to this. They go to the sheriff's station, or police station, and like I said, they cause a big panic. There's some naked guy there. He's seen it, and he claims he saw it too. They try to get him, and people are literally disappearing in town, and the police don't know what to make of it. But they eventually all realize something's going on. The whole time this is all going on, they keep running into this guy. That's the owner of this bowling alley. You don't realize that till later on, but they keep running into this guy, this Robert and his girlfriend. They keep running into this guy, and they're pissing him off because they nearly ran him off the road the first time. Then the second time, they destroy all these, like, I don't know if it's beer or whatever. They run them all over. He's literally getting livid at him. He wants something done about him. The sheriff won't do anything about it. They end up at the bowling alley because they hear that they get reports that it's there. So they show up at the bowling alley. It's starting to come out and attack all these people, and it's gobbling them up. And Robert and his girlfriend and the guy who owns the bowling alley, they all get trapped inside in this, I guess it's like a stage booth. You know, in the theater you have that big old box booth in the very back of the seats, or balcony seats, and they get trapped in one of those. There's an ice rink that's getting ready to be built, that's added on to the bowling alley, and it just happens to follow him in there where this thing is, in the balcony, this booth, box booth, or whatever, announcer's booth. The guy who owns the bowling alley tells Robert that the ice system it works. They just put it in. They just haven't got the rest of it built. So Robert climbs out of the box in the ceiling and works his way across some wires or whatever on the ceiling, and gets to the junction box to turn on the ice rink, and to make the ice. And he flips it on, and that ends the Blob. And that's pretty much the end of the movie. This was okay. It wasn't like terrible, but it wasn't like really all that great. It was all right for what it was. The acting wasn't too bad. but it was more like a TV made movie of the version of the Blob is what it was. And instead of being a, a movie theater, it was a bowling alley at the end. So I don't know. Like I said, it was all right. It wasn't too bad. There were times that it was a little too 70-ish for me. I'm not real big on the 70s. I didn't care for the fashion or anything back then. It was always a little weird to me. But overall, the movie wasn't half bad. It was okay for what it was. So if you want to check it out, go ahead. If you're a sci-fi cult or a monster cult fan, it's definitely a movie I'd recommend to go ahead and watch. It wasn't bad. Now the next one, I'm going to finish off with the 1988 version of the Blob. Now they're actually supposed to make a new Blob movie. I don't know when they're coming out. I thought it was supposed to come out like 2016, but it didn't. So I don't know when they're coming out with the new Blob. I think it got put on hold. Anyways, I look forward to seeing it. If they do, hopefully they do a pretty decent job of it. In 1988, they decided to do another Blob movie. They kind of remade it and kind of retold the story. It didn't do all that well as far as domestically. They made about $8 million on it, but they had a almost $19 million budget. I don't know what it did worldwide, but domestically in the USA it only did about $8 million, so it didn't do all that great. It did okay, but not really that great for back then. This one starred Kevin Dillon, and you probably know him from the movie Platoon. He's the whack job in Platoon. He wants to kill all the Vietnamese in it. So that's who that is. And then you also have Joe Seneca, which is the old black man scientist in it. You'll recognize him too. Those are your two main actors in it. This pretty much, it starts off basically similar to the original Blob. It's a retelling of the story, but and they've changed a few things. It comes from the space, and an old man gets entangled with it, and they take him to the hospital, and this preppy girl and Kevin, who plays this guy named Flag or whatever, he's kind of an outcast, the bad boy, he's always in trouble, does what he wants. Anyways, him and this girl and her boyfriend, they find the old man, they take him to the hospital. Flag's bike is broken down in the woods, and he comes across the old man and runs in front of their car. The preppy girl and her date, they nearly run him over, so they all jump in the car and they take the old man to the hospital. He's got something on his arm, similar to the original, and they leave him there. And a Flag takes off, and the girl and her date stay. Her date gets eaten up by the Blob, and the girl sees it and freaks out. The Blob's eating everybody, and she takes off, and she tries to tell the cops what's going on. The cops don't believe her. uh, she ends up finding Flag again at this diner, and the sheriff's going over there to meet this woman, and something happens to where the Blob is eating the sheriff, and the Blob is coming to and eating people in town. Is coming into the diner, and this woman, and she's like a waitress there. Her and Flag and this girl, they go inside this refrigerator unit or cooler unit after seeing the cook getting eaten by the Blob. It's now coming after them. It tries to go through the door, but it starts to go in and it backs out. So they come out. The woman goes to call the sheriff on the phone outside in a pay phone, and the Blob eats her. They eventually get out, and all the scientists show up. The whole town's going crazy. They don't know what's going on, and the military show up as well with the scientists. And the scientist, you know, he tries to tell them that they may be infected, and they're putting all the people into this a building on the square of the town. But Flag knows what's going on. He figures out what's going on. He saves some people from the Blob, and he's trapped in the sewers. He gets back on his bike. They're all trying to chase him down. But they find another guy, and he tells them what's really going on. That they're there to capture this thing or whatever, this Blob. Well, he leads it back into the town, and the military tries blowing the thing up, and it doesn't work. It gets out, and it kills the scientist, the main scientist guy. It comes out, and the whole town's trying to stop this thing. Eventually, they all get holed up in this building. Flag remembers it's afraid of cold, so he gets a CO2 truck and tries to run it down with the CO2 truck and freeze it, but it doesn't work. It overturns. They strap a bomb to the thing somehow, and someone shoots the bomb, and it blows up, and it freezes the Blob and turns into these ice crystals. And that's pretty much mainly the ending of that. Now there's this priest who thinks that the coming of the end of the world is coming, and he collects a few of the pieces of the Blob and stores it in a jar, and it shows him at the end, like they're going to make a sequel, you know, of him bringing about the end of the world. You know, he's a doomsday cult or whatever is what he starts. But anyway, that's pretty much the end of that movie. It wasn't bad. It was all right for what it was. You know, a little bit cheesy or whatever, but it was all right. The graphics were a little bit better, of course. I think the ending was a little bit off, though. It might have been I understood where they were trying to go with that ending, but it didn't sell well with me, or sit well with me at all. I didn't buy it. But otherwise, it was an alright movie. If you like monster movies, go ahead and watch it. It's pretty good. Wasn't too bad. Like always, leave a comment in the box, or leave a comment below if you have a type of movie you would like me to review and check out and give my opinion on it. besides that, I told you you'd be told the truth, and you just been told.